Bob Geldof turns blue. Is David Cameron using him to try to change the Tory party's image?
Now, I'm not interested in rebranding anyone. I'm interested in stopping people dying of poverty.
He's been brought in to advise on global poverty and accepts he's being used. But the former boomtown rat says he'll talk to anyone if it helps make poverty history. Also tonight, kidnapped at gunpoint, a British woman and her parents are taken hostage in Gaza. -10 and counting, fresh snow and freezing temperatures disrupt travel on road and rail.
And I'll be reporting from the icy streets of Britain as the Arctic winter descends and freezes the east of the country in its grip.
Plus, in sport, Liverpool triumph as Everton see red in the Merseyside derby, but anger elsewhere as the weather curtails the evening kickoffs.
And the top story here on UTV Live this evening. 2 people have died in separate accidents on the province's roads.
Good evening. As leader of the Conservative Party, he wants to make Labour history. Now, David Cameron has signed up the Make Poverty History campaigner, Bob Geldof. He will advise on international aid policies. It's all part of Mr Cameron's efforts to rebrand his party. Mr Geldof told ITV News today he's not interested in anyone's rebranding, just stopping people dying from hunger. Well, our political correspondent Angus Walker spoke to him and joins us now. Angus.
Yes, this really is a two-way deal, because although Bob Geldof says, yes, I am being used, David Cameron gets the kudos of having Sir Bob advising him on global poverty. At the same time, Bob Geldof gets to influence not just the Prime Minister, but now the leader of the opposition as well. David Cameron is trying to take the Tories on a new journey. He's already trying to turn his True Blue party green. Now he wants the Conservatives to help make poverty history by recruiting the unlikeliest of political allies, Bob Geldof. Today, Sir Bob told me that although he's agreed to work with David Cameron to design Tory policies on global poverty, he doesn't want to get involved in party politics. Some people will say you're being used as a political plastic surgeon to help rebrand the Conservatives.
Well, I think I've answered that. I'm not interested in rebranding anyone. I'm interested in stopping people dying of poverty. And if any party's policies go towards that, then I can support that policy, whether it's from anything. 20 years ago, I said I'll shake hands with the devil on my left and the devil on my right to get to where we need to be.
David Cameron has already recruited another political celebrity, Zach Goldsmith, seen here on the right. He's the owner of The Ecologist magazine and has been tasked with drawing up environmentally friendly policies.
For what? I mean, at the moment you've got a problem with the butterman.
And getting Geldof, the man who once tormented Tory leaders, to join forces is being seen as a major coup for Cameron. Recruiting the rock star is something Tony Blair had already seen the wisdom of. The Prime Minister got Geldof involved in his Africa Commission. Now the Tories hope Sir Bob's ideas could perhaps make their policies more exciting, putting the party into party conference.
Are you ready to start a revolution?
I think what's been lacking in the Tory party for a very long time is real passion, and they need things that people can be passionate about, and they need standard bearers who can help people be passionate about it.
But Tories, beware a man known for speaking his mind.
If I disagree, I'm going to say it. And so if they come out with a policy that I think is rubbish, I'm going to say it's rubbish.
And that's the risk of rebranding for David Cameron. Angus Walker, ITV News.
A young British woman and her parents have been kidnapped in Gaza. Kate Burton was working for a human rights organisation. Her parents were visiting for Christmas. She was showing them round the town of Rafah, near the border with Egypt, when all 3 were bundled into a car. Well, Damon Green is at the Foreign Office tonight. Damon.
Well, so far the Foreign Office is saying very little about what is obviously a very delicate subject. So far no group has admitted responsibility for the kidnapping, no group has made any demands, but it would appear that this is just the latest in a series of similar kidnappings in Palestine over the last few weeks. And if there is a glimmer of hope for the family involved here, it is that many of those kidnappings ended with the hostages being released swiftly, alive and unharmed. That's because in those cases the hostage takers were more interested in applying pressure to their own Palestinian leaders than to Western governments. And if that is the case in this latest attack, it could be that an intervention by Palestinian leaders could lead to Kate Burton and her parents being released sooner rather than later.
Damon, thank you. Coming up later here on the programme,
London.
Lord Coe looks back on the night before the big decision and how desperate Britain's top athletes were to host the Olympics.
And to a man and woman, they all said they would swap anything they'd done individually in sport for the right result.
But first, if you thought it was bad today, it's going to be worse tomorrow. Large parts of Britain will hardly get above freezing, and there'll be more snow from the west this time, rolling in tomorrow night. Today it was eastern Scotland, eastern England and particularly Kent that got the worst of it. Penny Marshall is in Kent tonight.
Much of Britain is tonight in the grip of what feels like a Siberian winter, with icy roads and a thick blanket of snow and sub-zero temperatures now covering much of eastern Britain. The severe weather conditions have taken their grip and they've taken their toll on our roads. It's the season for Siberian winds and snow, and they hit Britain today with full force. Sub-zero temperatures, icy roads and thick snow now blanket much of the eastern seaboard as severe weather takes a firm hold and takes its toll. Driving has been treacherous, but this cold snap was predicted and most local authorities were well prepared. The weather forecasters got it right and there's more to come.
Tomorrow a system moves in from the west and it's going to be, because it's so cold, snow along the leading edge. So it's going to be wintry, I think, across the country, but only for a time through tomorrow and into Friday. The bulk of the snow is going to be across the western parts on Friday, probably Friday morning, easing off in the afternoon, and it is going to become much milder as well. So it's only going to be a very, very short, sharp, wintry snap, I think.
The snow didn't stop those who had to return to work today, nor did it stop the fun. Children were out at first light to make the most of the snowfalls and the holidays. Eurostar trains were disrupted as up to 6 inches of snow fell in the southeast. Tonight in Kent and Sussex, southeast trains have cancelled all their services as the country braces itself for the coldest night of the year. Penny Marshall, ITV News, Kent.
And there's anger tonight among some football fans after the weather forced the late cancellation of key football matches. Charlton fans who travelled all the way to Newcastle had their game cancelled less than a half an hour before kick-off. We'll have a full summary of all today's games later on. It's suddenly become clear why 2 girls in Vietnam have dropped their sexual abuse claims against Gary Glitter. His lawyer admitted today the one-time rock star had paid the girls more than £1,000 each. The case may still come to court, but the money may help reduce his sentence, as Keir Simmons explains.
Gary Glitter is said to have handed over thousands of pounds. The payments have apparently been made to the families of 2 underage girls he's accused of molesting. It's reported they are bribes to persuade the girls not to testify against him. The news has been condemned by the campaigning organisation Fair Trials Abroad.
The motto over the Old Bailey: to protect the children of the poor and punish the guilty, because the rich can always protect themselves and their children, and that used to be the 18th century in this country, and still in too many places across the world that's precisely what goes on.
Gary Glitter is still being held in a Vietnamese prison accused of sexual assault by a 10 and 12-year-old girl. Despite the reported payments, he denies the charges, as his lawyer made clear recently.
Don't do anything wrong, to this matter.
And payments are common in Vietnam, part of the legal process. The relatives are now said to have written to the police asking for the charges to be dropped. And it's thought, if found guilty, the former pop star may only face 6 months in prison, the money being seen as a form of compensation, a payment that reduces his sentence. Keir Simmons, ITV News.
Now, if you've got one of those in-car satellite navigation systems, your map reading around the country relies on American military technology. It's accurate to within 10 metres. Today, Britain and the rest of Europe began a fight back with the launch of a satellite called Galileo, which aims to provide even more precise information. Paul Lasman explains how it works.
Blasting off into a future where satellites in space will pinpoint our location here on Earth. When the 30-strong Galileo network is complete, it will be a leap forward in the technology, which these days is mostly used for car and boat navigation. Accuracy is the key. Current technology can tell me where I am to within 10 metres. Pretty impressive, but still a potentially dangerous margin of error.
Galileo promises to locate me to within 1 metre. Surely as good a fix on where you are in the world as anyone could ever want. And there's much more to gain than just a better way for tourists to find their way around London or ramblers round a hillside. Combined with other technologies, the applications are almost endless.
Mobile phones will not only be able to tell you what's on at the theatre, but guide you there as well. You'll be able to store your PIN numbers in your phone too. No more cards, much better security. Satellite navigation in cars will be much more reliable and information-packed, accurate enough in fact to make the government's dream of road pricing a reality, with no excuses.
At the moment, with the uncertainty of GPS, you may be driving on a little surface road next to the motorway and not on the motorway itself. And of course, you could always claim that you were driving on a little surface road, and there's no way to prove otherwise. And that makes it fundamentally impossible to do real road pricing. This system is so precise, it'll tell you which lane you're in.
As usual, new technology tends to be a double-edged sword. Paul Lasman, ITV News.
It was supposed to ensure that men and women were treated the same. Tomorrow, the Sex Discrimination Act celebrates its 30th anniversary. The head of the Equal Opportunities Commission says equality is still pretty superficial. So how much has really changed? Romilly Weeks has been finding out.
Equality in the workplace, that was the dream in 1975, in the days when the trousers were wide and platforms high. And the reality now?
Sexual discrimination is still out there, it's active, it's up and running, and unfortunately it's still the ladies that are bearing the brunt of it.
These women believe they're being given a worse redundancy deal than their male colleagues by Morrison's supermarket. It's not the most celebratory birthday message for the Sex Discrimination Act. So how have women's rights improved since 1975? Then only 2% of managers were women. Now it's 33%. 30 years ago, only 7% of solicitors were women. Now it's 42%. There's still, though, a 17% pay gap between men and women in full-time work. For part-time workers, it's twice as big at 38%. Of course, the biological demands of childbirth mean many women have to take breaks from work, but pregnancy isn't supposed to affect rates of pay. The Equal Opportunities Commission points out pregnant women still face discrimination. It says 30,000 of them are sacked, made redundant, or forced to leave their jobs each year.
Whilst it's quite true that women's work patterns do reflect their childbearing activities, that doesn't mean you can't do more with the job to allow for compensation. And it shouldn't be some kind of penalty that they take with them for the rest of their lives. I think employers have used pregnancy as an excuse to keep a pool of low-paid workers.
Belinda Price brought the first indirect sex discrimination case 30 years ago. We talked about what has changed since then in the London wine bar that was once sued for not letting women buy drinks at the bar.
About 30 years ago, I think women were expected to be more content with their lot, that they got a husband and family and perhaps a little part-time job or whatever. And now we believe that women do have a right to have both a career and family, if that's what their choice is.
That fight might have been won, but the battle to be paid equally while women are balancing work and family has some way to go yet. Romilly Weeks, ITV News.
The financial markets were open again today. The FTSE, main measure of shares in London, closed at 5,622, another four-year high, and up 27 points, buoyed by retailers' sales figures. In New York, the Dow Jones closed at 10,796. That's up just over 18 points. Sport now, with the details of the Premiership programme. Here's Felicity Barr.
Thank you, Nick. Liverpool conceded their first goal in more than 12 hours of Premiership football tonight, but they still completed their 9th league victory in a row by winning the Merseyside derby. Everton had 2 men sent off and were beaten 3-1 at Goodison Park, a result which piles more pressure on manager David Moyes. Here's Neil Roberts.
Before tonight's derby, Liverpool's goalkeeper was proving almost impossible to beat. And when Peter Crouch scored his 3rd goal since joining Liverpool, the writing already seemed to be on the wall for a struggling Everton. Then Steven Gerrard fired Liverpool into a 2-0 lead. Everton did get the ball in the net, only for James Beattie's header to be disallowed. But was this cross over the line? Then a legitimate goal by Beattie. The first Liverpool had conceded in the Premiership for 762 minutes. But an Everton recovery was snuffed out by Djibril Cissé's finish. And it soon got worse for Everton. Phil Neville sent off for a 2nd yellow card.
It's a 2nd yellow.
Then Arteta saw red for his 2nd booking. Everton finished with 9. The match finished Everton 1, Liverpool 3. Neil Roberts, ITV News.
3 Premiership matches were called off tonight because of the freezing weather. Fans turning up for Newcastle's game with Charlton were furious when it was postponed just 30 minutes before kick-off. The games at Blackburn and Bolton were also called off at short notice after their undersoil heating systems failed. So let's take a look now at the results from the matches that were played this evening. Arsenal 4, Portsmouth 0. Birmingham 2, Manchester United 2. Blackburn against Sunderland was postponed, as was Bolton against Middlesbrough. Everton 1, Liverpool 3. Fulham 3, Aston Villa 3. Manchester City 0, Chelsea 1. Newcastle against Charlton was postponed. It finished West Brom 2, Spurs 0, and West Ham 0, Wigan 2. So at the halfway stage, Chelsea already have an incredible 52 points. Manchester United are still their closest challengers, but Liverpool are within touching distance of 2nd place, and they have 2 games in hand over United. At the other end, well, it's beginning to look bleak for Everton. Last season's 4th place finishers are now 4th from bottom, having conceded 13 goals in their last 4 matches. Birmingham gained a crucial point in the relegation dogfight. Well, as 2005 draws to a close, we're looking back at the stories that have made the headlines in a momentous year of sport. Who could forget the achievements of Lord Sebastian Coe and the team which won the 2012 Olympic Games for London? We've been speaking to him about his memories of a day when the capital celebrated winning the greatest prize in sport.
At the Games of the 30th Olympiad in 2012 are awarded to the City of London.
A huge relief, because it had been it really had been a long, hard road.
For Lord Coe, securing the Olympics was a round-the-world journey of pressing the flesh, earning support and planning a winning strategy. And it was a team effort.
I was delighted for the team here, because they're an extraordinarily talented team, and you don't always get in life what you deserve, and these guys deserved every bit of what came that afternoon. What we said in Singapore was not, they weren't warm words on a Wednesday afternoon to get us through an election. We actually believe that we really can change the lives of young people in this country and more broadly around the world with this project.
The theme of youth will be the signature for the London Games, and that desire to change the lives of young people drove some of Britain's Olympic legends to a victory many considered greater than their own personal triumphs.
You know something, I wasn't surprised. I had lunch with all those guys, well, a lot of them in Singapore the day before. My room became a working area, and halfway through the day I thought, well, let's just have lunch. And there were Jonathan Edwards was there, and Daly was there, and Addy, our Paralympic basketball player, and Tanny Gray-Thompson. It was a great group, and to a man and woman they all said they would swap anything they'd done individually in sport for the right result the following day. And I think that probably about sums it up, really.
Lord Coe, and tomorrow we'll be hearing from Dame Ellen MacArthur about the year in which she became the fastest person to sail single-handed non-stop around the world. That's it tonight, Nick.
Thanks, Felicity. You can catch up now with what's been going on in your part of the country from your own ITV newsroom. After that, join me again for our headlines and a preview of tomorrow's front pages.
Good evening and welcome to UTV Live. The province's roads have claimed the lives of 2 people inside the last 12 hours. 79-year-old John Hunter from Lochlochen Road in Brashane died as a result of an accident in County Antrim this evening. His Nissan car crashed with a Honda near the halfway house bar on the Carnlough Road between Carnlough and Brashane shortly before 7:30. Earlier today, an elderly woman was killed in a crash near Limavady. Niall Donnelly has the details.
The latest tragedy on the roads here happened around 10:30 this morning. A woman passenger was killed when the Peugeot 306 car in which she was travelling collided with a Skoda Octavia on the main Limavady to Dungiven Road at the Ballyavalon-Ballyquin junction. The driver of the Peugeot and another person who was in it were taken to hospital and treated for injuries which are not believed to be life-threatening. The driver of the Skoda and a passenger in it were not physically hurt. The road was closed for several hours but has now reopened. The woman who died in the crash was 72-year-old Florence Pickering from Westland Road in Maherafelt. Niall Donnelly, UTV Live.
Belfast City Centre management is predicting an excellent performance at the tills as bargain hunters take to the sales. Tracy McGee has this report.
No sooner has the Christmas shopping frenzy finished than the January sales have gotten underway. Belfast bargain hunters were out from early today. Nationally, there had been gloomy predictions of a poor retail performance this year, and price discounts started in the week running up to Christmas. But Belfast City Centre management says Belfast appears to have been the exception to the rule.
Nationally, everyone was very pessimistic about Christmas in general if we looked at the retail sector. However, Belfast appears to have bucked that trend. We have more people than ever coming into the city centre. I think the big question will be whether that will be realised in retail sales, because there was heavy price discounting in the run-up to Christmas.
And what about the sales?
Well, the sales have really kicked off over the last day or so, and today we're expecting big numbers into the city centre, especially with good weather that we have, and also really good offers of up to 75% off in certain stores.
Bargain hunting may be a serious business for shoppers, but for retailers it's critical. 40 to 60% of all annual turnover is generated in the 10 weeks before and after Christmas. One factor that is boosting sales performance is the number of shoppers travelling over the border.
I think there's no doubt that people are certainly bargain hunting, and they were able to do that both pre-Christmas and definitely now post-Christmas. We're also seeing a lot of people coming up from the Republic of Ireland, and particularly there's been a lot of press in the Republic of Ireland about Rip-Off Ireland, and what we see here is in Belfast they can have up to 20% savings even during the year, but certainly in this post-sale, or during these sales, there's really good bargains to be had.
Shoppers today seemed impressed by the discounts on offer. Would you consider yourself to be quite a canny shopper? Would you be careful about sort of bargain hunting and getting discounts?
Try to, yeah. I mean, some of the shops will send out previews, don't they, beforehand, so you know what's going to be reduced. So you hold off until the January sales. And I think that a lot of the shops started in December as well, so knocking things down on Christmas Eve. So, yeah.
So you think you're getting value for money today?
Yeah, definitely.
Did you hold off especially because you wanted to get a bargain, or did you shop?
No, not really. No, just come in today, lucky enough. Sales were brilliant.
Are you impressed with the sales today?
Very good, yes.
So the predictions are optimistic, but of course it will be some time before it's clear whether the retailers are going to be celebrating a bumper year or counting the cost. Tracy McGee, UTV Live, Belfast.
In sport, Belfast Giants extended their lead at the top of the table with a 4-1 win over reigning champions Coventry tonight, while Ulster's rugby coach Mark McCall is looking ahead to Saturday's match against Connacht in the Celtic League.
Connacht away is always a very tough assignment in any situation, but having lost to Leinster the weekend and lost at home, we want to sort of stay where we are in the league table. It's very important we go down there and do a good professional job.
What was it about that defeat that disappointed you most?
Oh God, we haven't watched the tape a few times. We got ourselves in control of the match at half time. against a good Leinster side, which is a positive. And we just had a very slobbery 20 minutes when we got loose and disjointed and allowed Leinster to gain momentum in the game. Having said that, we showed some fight and some spirit to come back into the game, and we almost stole it at the end. But it's gone now, and it's history as far as we're concerned. We've got a good team here, we know that. It's important we've done to go down to Galway in a positive frame of mind.
Finally, this year's Black Santa charity sit-out has raised over £260,000. Dean Houston McKelvey ended his sit-out on Christmas Eve, but the famous money barrel is now inside St Anne's Cathedral for people to continue donating.
Lots of schools and parish churches, thank heaven, send us the proceeds of their Christmas carol service. So we've still got people doing a wee bit of counting this morning, and we've also still to get back from the bank the total of all the coins below £1, because we basically filled bagfuls of them. I mean, one load, 84 bags went off to the bank the other day, and that all adds up. So we've still got that to take into the reckoning. So I'm thinking, right, it'll pan out about £270,000, but the barrel's still inside there for anyone who happened to miss us. It'll be there until the beginning of January for this year's appeal. Our next challenge now is to get ready to dispense the money, and we do that at the evening service on the first Sunday in February.
And that's all tonight's news from UTV Live. The weather forecast is next. Good night.
The UTV weather is sponsored by Progressive Startup Savings Account for Children. Getting the savings habit up and running.
There'll be a widespread frost tonight as temperatures fall to around -2. It'll cloud over later though, with sleet and snow spreading in, turning heavy in places and especially in the Sperrins. Snow will reach all but the far east of the province by noon. Sleet and snow will gradually turn to rain by the end of the day in all areas apart from the mountains. Top temperature a cold 4 Celsius in the evening with a very raw southeasterly breeze. On Friday, rain will clear to brighter, drier weather. New Year's Eve will be rather showery and milder.
The UTV weather is sponsored by Progressive, your homegrown building society.
Hello again. A reminder of tonight's main news. Bob Geldof insists he's not taking sides after he joined a Conservative policy group on global poverty. The new Tory party leader David Cameron asked him to be an advisor. Palestinian gunmen have kidnapped a British human rights activist and her parents in the Gaza Strip. And temperatures in parts of Britain could fall to -10 tonight. The east of the country has been worst hit by the wintry weather. Time now for a look at some of tomorrow's newspapers. The Daily Telegraph leads on new police powers to arrest people for any type of offence, including dropping litter. It says that civil liberties organisations call it a fundamental shift in power from the public to the police. Its main picture is of a sheep covered in snow in Kent. The Guardian reports on plans for a big shake-up of local government. It says the review could see the scrapping of county councils. The Times says health officials are being urged to fast-track the approval of a new breast cancer drug. It says research found that it far outperformed the government's recommended treatment. And The Sun leads on the story of a 6-year-old girl who was snatched from her house in North Tyneside and later dumped naked on the street. The police have called the crime despicable. And that's where we end tonight. Join Nina Hussain for the news here on ITV1 tomorrow. In a moment, an all-important weather update with Becky Mantin. Now, though, from me and all the news team, good night.
ITV National Weather, sponsored by Powergen.
Hello again, good evening. We're certainly going to see a snowy picture in the west tomorrow. The Met Office have issued a weather warning for that snow, so watch out on the road. Certainly the best time to travel is tomorrow morning, but for tonight, a mostly dry and settled night, very cold indeed. A few wintry flurries continuing down the eastern flank, but as you can see, mostly dry. And just look at those temperatures dropping right down, -6 there in Aberdeen, and some rural spots getting even lower than that, maybe even a -10 in places. Now, looking ahead to tomorrow morning, once again, a mostly dry picture, foggy towards the south to start with, and through the afternoon we're going to see another system moving in from the Atlantic, bringing with it some snowy bits as well, so watch out for that on the roads. That's going to continue travelling eastwards for the end of the week. Very cold indeed, so watch out. I'll see you later. Good night.
Positive energy from Powergen.